day. And we know that's a great solution for planned maintenance. If you need to move your virtual machine to a different server, you want to put in new memory or do some upgrade or even patch the operating system of Windows, live migration, you move it over, the users don't notice the movement happening, and it's great. And so you can use to balance your workload and upgrades and so forth. So that's a great solution, but all that requires, with the basic Microsoft solution, all your virtual machines sit on a storage area network, a shared storage between all your cluster nodes in order for that to work. What we can do with SteelEye DataKeeper Cluster Edition, so this is the next level. This is the version of DataKeeper that includes the cluster integration. We can now move not only the virtual machine from one server to another, but at the same time we move the storage. So the in-service server might be serving, the virtual machine might be running on the E drive or replicating to the E drive on the backup server. We move the whole thing, including the storage. So the mirror direction actually reverses. We'll see that in a moment. So a couple key points about this solution. With SteelEye DataKeeper Cluster Edition, your SAN represents a single point of failure. So if your SAN fails, your whole cluster fails. There's no recovery from that. Also, and especially in the SMB, and we talked about earlier all the different versions of Windows, from starting at the very entry-level free version of the Windows Hyper-V Server 2008 R2, which includes failover clustering, and a limited edition of Windows Core that runs virtualization. Our software runs on that platform. So just with that very platform, you have a very robust solution that VMware can't even come close to. Even if you pay a lot of money, VMware does not have this solution today. So I think with the combination of SteelEye DataKeeper Cluster Edition and Hyper-V, we have solutions for high availability and disaster recovery that can't even be matched. So starting with that entry level, all the way up to the enterprise and data center editions, whether it's core or the full install, we work just fine. But it allows you to, for the small customer, a SAN might be too expensive, but with DataKeeper they don't need a SAN, so they can have the basic entry level failover clustering and our solution. So it's a very low cost solution for them to get into. The point which we joked about failing over from here to Hanover or whatever, and that's exactly what we can do. So with multi-site clusters, if you put one server in right here, you could replicate to a remote city real time. So if you want to do a live migration, you can live migrate across the wide area network to a totally different data center. Now, there are a few things to consider with that. One is the networking. Although failover clustering supports cross-subnet failover, if you want to do a live migration, it really needs to be the same subnet because the virtual machine itself has an IP address that stays the same. So you need to, there's some things to consider. There's some options there, but that's the best way to do it, is to be able to span your subnet. And then there's this concept of follow the sun computing, and this was really introduced to me from the multi-site cluster team. We did a webinar together where you think about having a resource locally. So if I'm in New York City, I'm working, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, I can log on and do my work with a local machine, where the people in Tokyo, they maybe, the latency to get to that server, they have a hard time working very efficiently. But if we could easily move that machine with the sun, so I go New York, and then maybe Los Angeles, and then maybe Tokyo, and then finally to the UK or wherever, you could enable that. So if you have a global operation, that's something else that's enabled with this solution. So we have a demonstration that shows live migration with our solution. It kind of looks like this. There's two physical servers. They're right here under the desk, basic entry-level servers. Server ML110A and server ML110B. We have a virtual machine called VMDR. And VMDR is actually running SQL Server inside of it. And what we're going to do is just do a live migration. We'll see VMDR move over to server B, the mirror will reverse direction, and then we're going to do a quick migration back to A to show you the whole round trip. And again, with Microsoft's basic solution, there would have to be shared storage in this picture. So DataKeeper, receiver replicating, there's no shared storage, there's no cluster shared volume, it's replicated volumes in the solution. So let's switch to the live demo here. So I have a connection to that ML110B, and again I have another console, and I already have a job created that is showing me that I am replicating the V volume from ML110A to ML110B. I have some basic information here about the source IP, the target IP, the current state, resync remaining. Again, I have more information down here. This is where I could edit the mirror if I wanted to change compression levels or so forth. I could do that all through the GUI. But the good part is, once I set up the initial mirror, I close this SteelEye DataKeeper GUI. I don't need to look at that any longer because I've clustered this virtual machine with a DataKeeper volume resource. And within this resource, I can get some basic information about the replication. So I can see pretty much everything I need to right from here. And so what I have running in the background, you see this is just a little application that's running a query against the SQL Server database running in that virtual machine. So I want to show you that there's no interruption as we move ML110A to ML110B. So we're going to do a live migration. And so at this point, Microsoft is synchronizing the in-use memory, so 25%. So Microsoft's doing that synchronization. We're synchronizing the VHD file, so any changes that occur, we see our client's still connected. Now we're doing the actual switch. So the mirror is reversing direction, and then we're going to come online, and we'll see that our client continued with, without losing the TCP connectivity. There was a slight, I would guess, 2 or 3 second pause where the application was paused for a moment. But the benefit of being able to do a live migration far outweighs the 2 or 3 second pause that your user might see in the middle of a move, in my opinion. So let's take a look at the GUI now. We see that things are online on ML110B. If I open up the DataKeeper GUI, I can see now the source is B, the target is A, and everything's running fine. So the mirror's now going back to the original source. So if I were to do a quick migration, and this is the version of migration that was included with the original Windows Server 2008 Hyper-V before live migration. I want to just show you the difference. In a quick migration, the virtual machine is being saved. So what's happening is the memory state's being written to disk, and we're replicating that memory state across the wire. And then we're going to reverse mirror, we're going to read the memory state, and then the virtual machine will be continued. So we see our application failed because it timed out. But we're restoring the virtual machine, and now it's running. This application will auto reconnect, so it depends on your application. But the reason I show you that is when you're moving across a wide area network, there's some, Microsoft just published an article about some of the requirements, and they say, in this article, I think it's really geared towards live migration on a local area network, and they say gigabit connection for live migration. I've done testing with 100 megabit connections. I've done testing with 10 megabit connections. The switch over time goes up dramatically because you basically have to synchronize all the in-use memory. It's a full synchronization at that point in time. So on a 10 megabit connection with a server that wasn't even doing anything, it took about 20 minutes to get synchronized. You're still online the whole time, but the actual time it took to move over was about 20 minutes. So you probably, on those lower speed WAN links, are going to want to consider doing the quick migration because we're able to pause the virtual machine. So no, the memory's not changing.